Is Welsh the oldest language in Europe? You've probably heard this claim, maybe from a proud Welsh friend, or seen it pop up online. It's a bold statement, and today, we're going to dive deep into the linguistic history of Europe to figure out if it's true. So, grab a cuppa, or maybe a call, and let's get started. First off, what do we even mean by oldest language? This question is trickier than it sounds. Are we talking about the language with the oldest written records, or the one that has been spoken continuously in the same place for the longest time? Or maybe the one that has changed the least from its ancient ancestor? Each of these questions gives us a different answer. Let's tackle the oldest written records idea first. If we're looking for the language with the most ancient texts, the winner in Europe is Greek. We have written records of Mycenaean Greek, found on clay tablets known as Linear B, that date back to around 1450 BC, that's over 3,000 years ago. These tablets mostly contain administrative records lists of goods, people, and livestock, but they give us a direct window into a very ancient form of the Greek language. So, by this measure, Greek takes the crown. But what about continuous use in one location? This is where things get interesting, and where Welsh really enters the conversation. Welsh is a Celtic language, a descendant of a much older language called Brittonic, or Common Brittonic. This was the language spoken by the ancient Britons across most of the island of Great Britain before the Romans arrived. Think about it. Before the Anglo-Saxons came and brought the ancestor of English, the linguistic landscape of Britain was Celtic. When the Romans left in the 5th century AD, Germanic tribes, the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes migrated to Britain. Their language, Old English, started to push the native Brittonic language westward. The people who kept speaking Brittonic were pushed into the areas we now know as Wales, Cornwall, and parts of northern England and southern Scotland. So, the language that became Welsh has been spoken in Wales continuously for a very, very long time. It evolved directly from the language of the pre-Roman inhabitants of the island. In that sense, Welsh has an incredibly deep and unbroken connection to the land it's spoken on. A connection that goes back thousands of years. It's a direct linguistic link to the ancient Britons. Let's put this in perspective. English, as we know it, arrived in Britain in the 5th century. The Romance languages like French, Spanish, and Italian evolved from Latin, which was spread by the Roman Empire. But Welsh predates all of that in Britain. Its roots are in the soil of the island itself. So, is it the oldest? It depends on your definition. If you mean the oldest language continuously spoken in its homeland, Welsh has a very strong claim, especially in Great Britain. But there's another contender in Europe we need to consider: Basque. Basque, or Euskara, spoken in the Basque country on the border of Spain and France, is a language isolate. This means it's not related to any other known language in the world. It's not an Indo-European language like Welsh, English, French, or Russian. It's a complete linguistic mystery. Most linguists believe that Basque is a direct descendant of a language spoken in that region before the Indo-European languages even arrived in Europe thousands of years ago. It's a pre-Indo-European survivor. So, if we're talking about which language represents the oldest linguistic layer in Europe, Basque is the undisputed champion. It's a relic from a time before the Romans, before the Celts, before the vast majority of languages spoken in Europe today. Now, let's bring it back to Welsh. We can't call it the absolute oldest language in Europe, because Basque has a claim to being even more ancient in its origins. We can't say it has the oldest written records, because Greek has that covered. But what we can say is that Welsh is one of Europe's oldest living languages, with a continuous, traceable history in its homeland stretching back millennia. The language itself has changed, of course. All living languages do. The Welsh spoken today is not the same as the Brittonic spoken 2,000 years ago. Early Brittonic evolved into what linguists call primitive Welsh around the 6th century. We can see this transition in early inscriptions. Then came Old Welsh, from around the 9th to the 11th centuries. We have some poetry and legal texts from this period. Middle Welsh followed, the language of the great medieval Welsh tales like the Mabinogion, and finally we have modern Welsh, which emerged around the 14th century and continues to evolve today. This continuous evolution is actually a sign of a healthy, living language. It hasn't been frozen in time. It has adapted and changed with the people who speak it. So when someone says Welsh is an ancient language, they are right. It carries the history of the British Isles within its very grammar and vocabulary. When you hear a word like tea, meaning house, or doctor, for water, you are hearing sounds that have echoed through the hills and valleys of Wales for countless generations. The language has survived Roman occupation, Anglo-Saxon migrations, Norman conquest, and centuries of pressure from English. The fact that around 500,000 people still speak it today is a testament to the resilience of the Welsh people and their culture. So, let's settle the debate. Is Welsh the single oldest language still in use today? No, that title is a bit too complex to award to any one language. Greek has older writing, and Basque is likely a survivor from an even earlier linguistic era. However, Welsh is undeniably one of Europe's most ancient and venerable languages. It is the oldest language of Britain, a direct descendant of the tongue of the ancient Britons, spoken continuously on the same land for thousands of years. It has a rich literary tradition and a vibrant modern-day community of speakers. Its claim to fame isn't just about being old. It's about survival, resilience, and an unbroken connection to place and history. It represents a deep cultural root that has withstood the winds of change for centuries. So, while it might not be the absolute oldest, the story of the Welsh language is one of the most remarkable linguistic survival stories in the world. And that's something truly special. Thanks for watching. If you found this linguistic journey interesting, please give this video a like and subscribe for more deep dives into history and culture. Let me know in the comments what you think, or if there are other language histories you'd like me to explore. See you next time.